Right to our bench racing hotline where we have Reid Spencer with us, and Reid writes for Nascar Wire Services. So as we said and previewed a little bit, if anybody knows what the heck's going on, it is Reid Spencer. Hey, Reid, how you doing?
Hey, fine, thanks, Steve and Charlie. How are you guys?
We are excellent. We are just absolutely 100% excellent. So you had a week off. Did you get any time to play golf?
Well, I haven't. We actually flew up to St. Louis on Sunday, and we're taking in the Cards-Dodgers series before we head to Indianapolis on Wednesday night. So here it's about too hot to play golf in the daytime because it's 107 degrees here today, and we're looking forward to nightfall and some good baseball, but it's too hot to get outside right now.
Yeah, we've had similar weather here this last month or so, Reid, so I know what you're saying. But you guys are big baseball fans. That's good compensation. You get to watch that Cards-Dodgers game series. That'd be good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. I mean, we saw the game last night. The Cards came up a little short, but aside from that, it was okay, and hopefully they'll win tonight.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this whole racing thing that's going on. I know you wrote a couple of days ago or so about Dale Earnhardt Jr. and how comfortable he is now doing the television work that he does. And there were a couple of articles some other people had written about him and the way that he is now a little more focused on racing. And I think it shows the fact that he's sitting second in points, something that we haven't seen in a long time. Do you get a feeling that he is a new Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Well, I think certainly he's improved, and because of his relationship with crew chief Steve Letarte, I think he's improved in this area tremendously, and that is giving feedback to his crew chief and being able to tell him in a very sort of calm and concise way what the car is doing. I think if anything held him back in his first couple of years at Hendrick, that was it. And I think he's at the point now where he and Steve really are on the same page. And, you know, it's gratifying to me to see Dale be not very happy with a 4th, 5th, or 6th place finish and want to do better, because that's clearly good for the sport and good for the fact that, you know, that he has the largest fan base and is the perennial most popular driver. But now he's starting to match his popularity with performance on the racetrack, and I think that's huge.
Reid, we had talked to a few people, again, kind of in that Dale Earnhardt Jr. thing about, you know, whether or not he truly is the guy that can make, you know, NASCAR as popular as it was. I don't know that you can make this sport as popular as it was 10, 15 years ago. I just don't know that the fan base is there anymore. But it sure doesn't hurt to have him racing as well. I don't know if he has to win a championship, but I think the fact that he is, as you say, more consistent, he's at the top of the leaderboard week in and week out, it sure as heck can't hurt anything.
Well, no, and I think, you know, one of the most striking things that I've seen in the last 6 or 7 years was a couple of years ago at Richmond when Dale Jr. was not competitive. And when he went 2 laps down in the race at Richmond, literally a fourth of the crowd walked out of the racetrack, and, you know, got up, and it looked like the 7th inning at Dodger Stadium when people start to go home. And now that I think you're right. I don't think necessarily he has to win a championship, but it's great that he's competitive and that people go to the racetrack, his fans, which are legion, thinking every week that he's got a chance to win. And I think that makes a huge difference. I don't think that anybody alone can restore the sort of popularity that the sport had, say, back in, you know, in the early part of this decade or the last decade, by himself. But I think that's certainly a good start in terms of having him be competitive on a weekly basis. So yes, I think it's huge.
We're talking to Reid Spencer. Reid, my thing with Dale Jr. is, and we're fans, I mean, we want to see him do well because I do think it's good for the sport. But the fans that are rabid about Dale Earnhardt Jr. are fans that have been around, I think, this is my opinion, since his father was killed at Daytona, whatever that was, 10, 11 years ago. I don't know that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is necessarily drawing in new fans. I think if NASCAR is going to get new fans, it's going to have to be from guys like, I was at the Nationwide Series race in Chicago this past weekend. Travis Pastrana gets a tremendous amount of attention. The crowd wasn't huge there, but when Pastrana's out there, when he gets introduced, he gets a lot of attention. Danica Patrick gets a lot of attention. Joanna Long gets a lot of attention. I think that's where the new fans are going to come from. Am I barking up the wrong tree, or what do you think?
Oh no, I think absolutely, and that's that's the real conundrum as far as NASCAR marketing itself as a sport goes right now, is the fact that they really crave that 18 to 34 demographic. Yeah. The argument is, can you secure that demographic simply by having people like Danica Patrick and Travis Pastrana compete in races, or do you still have to grow that sort of fan base by parents taking their 10-year-olds to the racetrack and exposing them to the sport in that way? I mean, are you going to grow a loyal, long-term fan simply by having someone from the X Games like Travis Pastrana, or a popular driver like Danica Patrick, who certainly does move the needle in every respect, simply compete in the series? You're also going to have a situation next year where Danica Patrick, who will compete full-time in the Sprint Cup Series next year, is definitely going to struggle in her first year of competition there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And, whether or not that ends up being a positive or negative still remains to be seen.
What do you think they should do there? I think she should. I don't think she should go to Cup next year myself. How do you feel about that?
Well, I agree with you there. I look just for a comparison, and this is something that we've been talking about for several days. Austin Dillon, who is a Camping World Truck Series champion and making a run at the Nationwide Championship this year, has decided, they think that for his seasoning, it's wise for him to stay in the Nationwide Series full-time next year. Yeah. I think Danica Patrick should take a hard look at that and realize that if a guy like Austin Dillon, who is winning races and having success in NASCAR's two lower top Touring Series, is making that decision, that maybe it's a bigger step that she needs to make right now, because I guarantee you that she is not going to come to the Cup Series and set the world on fire as a rookie. No. It just doesn't happen. It didn't happen for Juan Pablo Montoya, who, his credentials, far surpassed Danica Patrick's in open wheels before he came to NASCAR. So, I think that it's going to be a very, very tough road for her, and I totally agree with you that she should take another year to get seasoning, but that's just not the marketing plan. She will be in Cup next year.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably more driven by the fact that GoDaddy wants to have her in Cup, and the TV exposure that will get them has to be far outweigh what they're getting in the Nationwide Series. So I would think that would be what drives that decision.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's all a brand decision, and that's really where it is as far as her career progress goes. I mean, the move to NASCAR was made because it exposes her to a much broader fan base than IndyCar had or has at the time. And, similarly, as you say, a move to Cup is going to bring in a lot more eyeballs to the GoDaddy car than the Nationwide Series does.
I wanted to ask you about this thing that NASCAR has kind of come up with. They're bouncing around, I guess, is the best terminology, about new qualifying, where they're going to qualify. They're talking about the idea of qualifying the top 38 drivers on time, and then having, I believe it's 4 provisionals plus a provisional for a past champion. It sounds kind of like 1985-ish to me, but it doesn't sound new, let's put it that way, kind of back to the future.
Well, absolutely, and I guess they're finally listening to me, because I've been advocating an abandonment of the whole top 35 concept for several years now. And, I'd love to see personally the whole field just qualify on speed, and, for each driver to get a couple of provisionals in those cases where they have a glitch, where they spin out and hit the wall, something like that, so that it doesn't cripple a guy's championship hopes simply through one qualifying section. But I'm all for the idea of setting the field based on speed and qualifying on speed, and whether it's 2 provisionals or 4 provisionals, whatever it is, I much prefer that to the current system where 35 cars are locked in and you've only got 8 or 9 guys or 10 guys that are actually racing for places in the field.
Well, I would have to think that most of these promoters are not exactly excited about the way qualifying has been. And you look at them kind of moving it to Saturday, then moving it back to Friday, some of the racetracks, trying to find some magic formula to get people interested in qualifying again, because as of right now, it really seems to be kind of a non-event.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people, and I think NASCAR is realizing that. I think the tracks are realizing that. And as you say, a lot of the ISC, International Speedway Corporation tracks, tried Saturday qualifying. Most of them now are going back to Fridays because it just absolutely saps the action out of one of the weekend days, Friday afternoon, when qualifying moves to Saturday. So, I think, to have qualifying actually mean something is important. I actually think that they ought to award a point or 2 for qualifying and make it even more meaningful, so that people have an interest in watching it and determining who's going to start up front. I mean, basically the real relevance of qualifying today is getting to pick the number 1 pit stall, and that's about the only thing that really counts at most of these tracks, unless it's a place like New Hampshire last week where track position really is important from the get-go.
Well, plus it seems to me that the way the system is now, it really puts to a more of a disadvantage than normal anybody that's outside that top 35, because what they're doing is they're coming to the racetrack and they have to race to get into the race per se, whereas all the people who are in the top 35, they can come to the racetrack knowing they're in the race, and from the get-go they're setting up for a race setup. And you got guys who don't have enough money, who don't have the resources, and yet they have to come in and find their way into the race first of all, and then if they're going to race the whole race, they've got to go and completely change everything that they're doing to make the car into a race setup.
Here's what I think they should do. I think they should award a bonus point in the chase for whoever sits on a pole in any of the first 26 races.
Works for me.
All right.
I mean, that creates some real drive for all those teams that are competing and the teams that think they might get in. I mean, I would do something to just stir it up.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be a good way to accumulate points to start the chase.
Right.
If you got 3 points for a win, 1 point for a pole, makes the pole meaningful. I don't mind that a bit. The only thing that sort of mitigates against any argument about top 35 and stuff is the fact that the bottom 6 or 7 cars are going to be parking anyway.
Right.
And so it's just basically a race to see which starting part gets into the field. I think they actually, I think there are a couple of things that they could do to sort of quell that, and one is redistribute the purse money so that it's much more top heavy in terms of winner versus second versus third on down to 43rd place. And the other thing is that I don't think that in this day and age we necessarily have to have 43 cars in every race.
Yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't mind seeing shorter, more competitive fields.
Reid Spencer, as always, we appreciate you spending some time with us. Enjoy the baseball game, as we all do. And
stay hydrated out there in St. Louis.
Hey, at least you don't have to worry about that carpet sending the heat up to you anymore.
That's for sure, and that's a good thing. But I tell you what, we sat out there and watched Cards and Cubs on Sunday, and we had to use about 800 calorie sunblock, wear hats, and spray ourselves with water all afternoon long to keep from dying.
Well, I can sympathize with you, but hang in there because it will get better. No doubt about that. It'll get cooler, then we'll all complain. Hey, good luck.
Later.
Good luck to you. Thanks, Reid.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
All
Yep,
right,
take care.
Reid Spencer.